In this video, we're going to create an asset. We're going to focus on the article assets, but similar rules apply to other assets, photos, videos, documents, other elements. So again, you're going to log in through the columbiamissourian.com/tncms/admin. When you get here, this is where you want to come over here on the Block CMS menu. Your choices will be much simpler than mine, but you'll have editorial and assets. Right now this is set up. I can see every asset published in our system since we started. You see that number is very significant. We will work on simplifying your searches later on, but here is how you create an article asset. So once you're in editorial assets, go to new asset and article. You can see there are other choices here that you can work from in more advanced work. I go here. So a couple of things, your web headline, that is the headline and that appears on the website. This is a required field. You can't save without this, so you want to make sure that you put something in here, but make sure that it's relevant to your story. Even if it's not a perfect headline, please put something in there that is appropriate for your story. In case it gets published, in case it gets picked up in the URL, we just want to make sure that it's accurate. So this is a test story for training. Here, if we move down, if you set yourself to be the default author, then it should populate your byline if you filled in your byline and you as the author. This all connects everything to your profile page, which is important for portfolio work. Here in the body copy, this is where the text of your story goes. Best practices to work within blocks itself and write your stories here, but we understand that that's not always doable, whether it's internet issues or otherwise needing to write elsewhere. If you are writing from another word processing tool, Word, Google Docs, whatever it is, whatever you want to paste in, always use this clipboard and paste here. This paste as plain text is really critical. Even if you're just copying a quote from an email or something from a press release, you want to do paste as plain text here. It can really mess things up if you do not. So you paste it and hit insert and it will populate here. So this is my lead. Here is my, okay. So you write your story. You want to, at the beginning of every story, put your name and phone number. So this should be a cell phone number in case the ICE desk needs to reach you, just to make sure we obviously don't want to publish this. We have what's called notes mode. So that's this pencil on the piece of paper. So you'd select it and then click this and it will turn it green, and that will keep it from publishing on the site. You do this as well with your accuracy checks and CQs. So if I have something that I've CQ'd, then I mark it as CQ and put in notes mode there. You need to be careful about spacing on either side, that there's not any awkward spacing there. Otherwise, it's a typical text editor, so you can, this is something, if you want it to be bold, you can use the text editor to do those things. Everything is based on, so the other tabs here, the summary, that is what you see on the home page. So that's kind of the lead in to the story following the headline, and should summarize your story. Generally, we're going to skip over these other tabs here. You get a word count. If you don't see those, you can change this. So it's under the settings tool here, show stats, and you can see your word count, your character count, the inch count here. The start date time is always going to default to when you created the story. So especially on something that you've worked on for a long time, we highly recommend resetting the date to the current date when it's time to be edited. The display priority will be set. The ICE desk has some control over this. but just as a default to fill in there, you can put in a 5 there, and they will update that as needed. Don't worry about presentation. Over here we have a slug field. This is how stories are identified in the system, and your editor will give you the slug based on what is on the budget. But we use N for news, we use S for sports, O for opinion. Those are the basic ones. So in underscore, then we use the full date, so 11/29/2018, and then the slug name, and this is again what you will be getting from your editor. That's what you need to fill out on this tab. Over on tags, you need to assign a section. This is something you can ask your editor if you're not sure, but if it's a local story, it should go in local. If it's, you can put them in multiple. If it's also about K-12 schools, you can select both. Decide, it's going to default to what's in alphabetical order, but you should put the most specific section first. So if it's just that it mentions one school in the story, but the larger story is about the city itself, move local to the top. If it's all about schools primarily, then you can put K-12 education at the top. You generally should never have, news should not be at the top by itself. You need one of the more specific sections at the top. Keywords, not totally critical here, but your editor may say that you need a specific keyword added in here to fill in. That's all you need to worry about here. Under related, that's where photos, under child assets become things that don't stand alone. So those are photos, videos that are directly tied to the story. Sibling assets are related articles, so other things that are connected to the story. So if you're trying to give additional context, past stories, you link those here. And you can do a find assets and search for the topic. For example, the city manager, you could find all the past stories about the city manager by searching within our system, and you can select that and add selected assets. So that's generally for stories. On an article, you generally should not have a parent asset. We will leave that off. Under content, this is where info boxes, other information can go. We put corrections and updates here as well. You can select the style. There's more details on the training site over what these styles look like. But a bio box is a pretty standard info box. You don't want it to say the title is bio box, so you should make it more interesting about city manager, and then you would put in your info box information. You can also, we often do a lot of if you go boxes, so the where and the when goes in here. So all of that would go in here under content, and just that add will give you the choices here. So correction, more information, a pull quote. If you are updating a story, that would all go in this box here. Generally, you're not going to manage much in the other tab. There is an option here to add a locator map, but I'm not going to cover that in this video. You will not have control over publishing if you are a reporter. So you need your slug, you need section tags specifically, any related content, child assets, siblings, any info boxes go under content. And otherwise, you are now able to save. As long as you have that web headline in there, you're able to save as you go. We recommend saving often. If you click view, this will show you a preview of what the site would look like when you publish. And that covers story assets and creating those assets.